decided to step into the YouTube ring here, as it were, and maybe even discuss a few things that are, I don't know, just not settling well in my gut here. I working or not, but find out soon. Um, lots happening across the world. I keep small tabs and dibs on the Twitterverse. Take that for what it is. Don't know how accurate like that can be. I assume it's a fairly decent look at what humanity is talking about, be it um is it whether it's accurate or not, say. I like to think it's we're pretty close to what we need. Um but it's sorry. It in many ways it's like all we got. So hoping I don't know, when I search across Twitter, I some regard are and looking for some some idea of what's going on. I don't know if and I don't know how accurate be, but try and take a pretty fairly pragmatic approach to most. I don't know. I don't know a lot of things, but I tend to look at things fairly objectively, and I want to know. I want to know more. I want to know is what's being said right, not right, and I think it's healthy to question things. There's a lot of talk on the internet about following science and you know smart and do your research and all this. Um, but I find, and I'm not alone in this, I find that people are they're not questioning things, and that's a problem. Science is totally based on this idea that we can question and continue to question and reinforce the things that we know and believe. I think that's very important to continue to do, even in the face of these difficult things like um, COVID, lockdowns that are happening, um, all that, and even as it pertains to the discussion of like vaccines and everything, like I don't think it's unhealthy to question the efficacy of them. I think they're good. I think that there's certainly great things to come of them. I think people who are trying to shut down that discussion, that debate, are objectively wrong. I think you need to have all these things. And I think we need the keen minds behind them in order to advance the discussion even farther. And I think what I try and do on this particular platform, or even on my platform on Twitch, I think it's important that the regular person talk it out. I don't think it's always necessary for the genuine experts to be having the conversation. I think normal people need to converse and understand points of view again in a healthy manner. Um, so, like I do, I scour the internet from time to time and look at what's happening via via Twitter. What are people saying? What what is on their mind? And there's some troubling things that I find across the board that I think just need to be touched on. And this particular segment, politically confused, was spawned out of the 2020, uh, well, 2019 primaries and 2020 election because I found myself coming from a very liberal Democratic side to being red pilled to death to then questioning everything. So politically confused is just what it is. It's like thinking you have a thinking that you once had a grasp on something and then waking up one day and realizing you don't have even have like a modest foothold on the world at large, and that's troubling to say the least. And when I stepped back a little bit and started analyzing the different news stories and talks that people were having, I realized that there was a lot to learn. I was being told one thing and the other thing was happening. So I started, my best friend and I started talking almost every day about things. Like literally, I was like, why are people saying this particular thing on the news? Why is this, why is this happening? I don't know, man. Like, this is just what's going on. I was in the same boat and now I don't stop. I just keep questioning, keep reading things, and I think the problem is that people abuse the term like do your research, and that is one of the big issues that I have. And I think when people say it, what they often mean and what I mean usually is just go find a different source or go find another source to verify what it is that you're talking about. Don't necessarily find that an offensive thing. To think it's a smart thing. Oh, I know you heard it here, but let's try a different news source. Whether it be like the opposite news source or whatever. I just think I think it's a very healthy thing for the mind. You know, some may disagree. It's okay. I'm not necessarily here to change the mind of the people at large. I think the more important thing to do is to just take a few moments to listen to another voice. Like might not be the supreme authority on anything, but I certainly have um, you know, real world experience in that I am engaged with my community, I'm engaged with my job, and you know, there are some of these issues that take place and things that are coming up and crossing over into my work life. I want to be sure that we're going about things in a smart way, that we're approaching these milestones in the world in a very healthy manner and, for lack of a better term, democratic way. And for those who don't know, I spend most of my time live streaming on Twitch. My social links down in the bottom. Um, twitch.tv/the Shagsworth is where you find me Friday through Monday playing video games for people. We really enjoy it. Occasionally we touch on some subject. We do some social subjects. We do some um, views, do um, reaction videos of other content on YouTube, which is a lot of fun. But I wanted to expand the content when I could across to YouTube and having longer format discussions, things that I might say in my live stream, but I can't really elaborate on too much because I try not to cross the social political world with the nerd world, which I think is, I think it's smart, not to, you know, inundate people with too many hard things. Um, but and occasionally I'll save some tweets that I find across the internet, or rather across Twitter. Um, and the idea that, certain groups of people can't have certain opinions on things is a bit bizarre. You're starting to see the nuanced conversations expand, definitely in alternative media, but also, a little bit into the mainstream. Even Sarah Silverman came out recently and said that, oh, maybe a national divorce is a good thing. We should just rip off the band. And which, I don't necessarily disagree with. And I've even during like my woke phases, I've spoken with friends about how incredibly different the like four corners of the United States really are. Uh, how it might benefit us to consider the idea that maybe we are four or more separate countries balled up into one, maybe approaching maybe approaching life that way smarter. And some of my friends, even at the time, had entertained the idea that it could possibly be right, but it's a pretty, that's a pretty bold statement. And again, I don't have the answers, but I think recognizing how different each corner of the United States really are, or even just the different regions are, how they value different things, that's probably not the worst idea in the world to consider the options, weigh the pros and the cons. Like we keep going the way we're going, is it sustainable to continue to divide people across um, party lines? We're kind of in this place where we are living our life based on our favorite color. I think that's dangerous. We are we are dividing ourselves once again across racial lines. Um, Mainstream media seems like pretty content on dividing us up that way. And thought I saved the tweet earlier, but it doesn't look like here. But even Joy Reid was talking about. She was commenting on a young girl who has been missing. YouTube, YouTuber. Her and her fiance were driving across the country from Long Island, and they got to Utah, had a fight, running with the police, and then she was found dead in a national park in Wyoming. Now the fiance is missing. He is a big person of interest at this point. And she had the balls to say that was the nation was suffering from missing white girl syndrome. Was taken aback a bit. I thought that was a pretty bold thing to say on national television. But as long as you are a part of a certain group, you can make accusations without any sort of recourse or fear of it being considered racism. So you know, again, things like that are a bit confusing for someone like myself, who is a fairly everyday person. And when you're told that one group can do things and the other can't, well, seems a touch problematic in my. Not an expert on anything really, but it, I do have a firm grip of reality. I like so where do we go from here? How do you develop a sense of normal out of comments like that, which are you know they're being spoken um, into the world by national news media. Um, so many people are exposed to it, and even impressionable people like young teenagers, young adults who are seeing that and think, oh, that's a normal thing to say, and it's okay to say stuff like that. And I divert a lot of times to the idea that if you could like turn the mirror on yourself, or if you could be standing in the room with yourself and say those things Like, would you be accepting of them? Would it make sense to you? Would you be okay with those things being said? When I ask this question to people, oftentimes the answer is no. Is that indicative of anything? I'm not sure, but um, you know, I think it's important to consider what it is that people are, they're saying, and you have to take also to take consideration that we all do experience life in a very, very different way. Um, so people's personal experiences are important. Consider them, but we need real talk. We need to ground our conversations and our, I guess, debates in reality. We need to be able to agree on fundamental definitions, and we're getting away from that. Getting away from the ability to even agree on something as simple as what a man is or what a woman is, what defines the people, the different roles that they play in society. Um, it's again, it's a bit alarming that we've come to a place where we can't even talk about that. We can we can only say that this is my truth, the only truth. That's it. I don't want people to get out of hand. I don't want people to lose focus on two things that, conservatives like to think that it is one that it's the individual, it's just the one person that's responsible for all of this change. You have liberals who believe it's the collective, it is us as a group that are going to change it. But I think the answer is somewhere in the middle of that. It is there is individual responsibility, and we can't ignore that, but we can't do it on our own. We can do it mainly as a group. So it's a balance of the two. We can't just throw out, you know, the collective because it's where we thrive in the smaller instance. Hello, ANCAP, and hello, LG. Welcome into the live stream tonight. How are we doing? I want, we come to a place where we need to have a sense of balance. Without it, um, I think there's a lot of, I think without that balance, people, I mean, you're going to fall over. Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. We're just thinking about some things tonight, and I thought it was important to jump on and start chatting about them. Awesome. LG, good to hear, man. So like, I was looking across the board at some of these tweets that were happening. Someone asking privileged people, and again, this ambiguous privileged person, to stay in your lane, stop expecting POC to celebrate your wins when you take it down for hours, and don't brag about how easy something was for you to attain, knowing full well POC friend has been killing it for years, raps to show for it. Um, I don't, you know, I don't know what that means. First of all, because I think I think the privilege that people experience is such a wide spectrum of things. And when people say privileged people, it seems like they mean, well, you're a white person. That makes you privileged, or you're light skinned. If you're darker skinned, that you're somehow at some disadvantage to someone like myself, I guess. But um, there's many people around me who um, are people of color who are experiencing much more success than me. But I'm not complaining about it. It's because I haven't applied myself. I haven't put myself out there in order to feel the success that I want to feel. Yeah, I'm on here tonight, LG, because well, I just wanted to have like a quick little like hour-long conversation. I feel like this is the platform for the socio-political um talks, and Twitch is for games. Uh, so I wanted to make sure that I came on. I want to start doing these more, um, at least once a week, and sort of putting out there like what's on my mind and what's going on. So yeah, try and keep things a little separate. But again, these broad sweeping things, like something I've noticed about a lot of people in the world right now, especially on Twitter, is that people go and they celebrate these massive. Uh, they think that they're very insightful, discovering all these like brand new things when, and quite honestly, they are they are just basic. They're just basic things that people do. Um, and when they use terms like privileged people, I think just you don't sound smart. You sound clickbaity. You sound grifty, for lack of a better word. I think that when you use terms like privileged and all that as a way to demean, you know full well what you're doing, and I I don't think it comes from a genuine place. I think people who use terms like that are trying to get a rise because they know that outrage is profitable. And I think that's largely what I'm trying to do. What I'm doing here is that I don't want to take a like an outrageous approach, if you will. I would like to take a more pragmatic approach to it and um, like try and steel man some of the things that come my way. I'd rather try and validate what it is that's going on than than try and take the straw man route, attack the weakest or the lowest hanging fruit. Well, and I don't know. I don't think it's a thing that we do enough, and I hope but that we don't do it that much because it's so difficult. It's difficult to stand behind your words. And even even the and it doesn't feel good when you're wrong. My wife and I had a disagreement the other night, and I was in the wrong. I made assumptions. I got mad. We got into an argument. And at the end, you know, I was I was just like arguing for the sake of arguing. It wasn't like to actually resolve what was going on, and that was a big problem. And I felt it like in my chest. Felt like, oh God, like I just feel icky, like. But now, now that I know that something was amiss and something was wrong, I can use that to manage the conversation later on, and that's what I hope people are doing. People get get outraged on Twitter. They put something inflammatory on there, or even call someone out. Um, they get called out in return. I hope that in the process of all that, they are learning and they are understanding how to cross to people. Again, we all experience the world in very different ways. Um, I know friends who had horrible run-ins with police growing up. Um, and they despise police because of it. I know my mom was a cop growing up, and I had relatively good interactions with police. So I do not believe that they are inherently bad or out to get people. Um, but I do take a fairly balanced approach. That I do understand that people are sometimes bad. One bad apple can spoil the bunch, but we shouldn't let that happen. Um, there's lots of problems within the system of police and policing, but again, it's not indicative of a systemic problem. It's likely a um, likely evidence of a local problem. But again, there's problems with institutions. We need to understand that they locally we can do um, social surgery, if you will, cut that bad part out. Don't protect people who are actually doing wrong. But back to this tweet, telling someone to stay in your lane again is again it's intellectually lazy, does not help. Um, does not help anyone, doesn't help the conversation. Um, I don't expect really anyone. I mean, if you're out there celebrating your win, do your thing, celebrate your win. Um, I don't know if people are intentionally tearing others down in this case. What this person is saying. I think that oftentimes, people are critical of people and their success. I think that's just part of getting through success yourself. Um, yeah, I mean, it is, but again, I don't consider it really. Yeah, I think we should get government out of police. I don't believe that it's as wide. I don't like. I think it's widespread, but I don't like. I think it's like a lot of local little viruses. There's plenty of places that I have been and noticed the police is fine, but there's always that one or two people who just like they want to hand out tickets all the time. But I think it's more of a problem of authority than it is necessarily of policing. I think you give anyone like a small amount of power and it will go to their head for a time. The issue is like is being able to cut that part out of it, understanding when someone is doing wrong and bad and in removing them from the job. Um, but again, it takes a real nuanced um eye. I think people are quick to and this is not necessarily defensive police and a argument for government, intervention with it. No, far from it. Um, I am 100% in favor of private security forces. Um, I but I believe that the police is less evil than people make it out to be. Again, that's because my personal experience in a more smaller town, even in where I live now, even though it's a city, it's more small town. Most of the cops and the police are doing their job. But the people who are not, the officers who are not, that you need to be careful. Um, there's a lot there's a lot that goes into that job, and it's a pretty underappreciated area. Um, but I've really just kind of had it with a lot of the stuff that's happening out in the world right now because again, no one's taking a nuanced approach to this stuff, and that is what is really disheartening. When it because if it comes down to when you are doing something, if your head is on the chopping block, as it were, um, you would want someone to thoroughly look through what it was that you were involved in, or what you're being accused of, or whatever the situation may be. People don't think about that when they're calling for someone's head or they're calling for someone to be canceled. They just immediately think, "Well, this guy, I don't like what this guy said, and what he said was awful, and it's in conflict with my personal truth." Well, sorry, but again, the people playing judge, jury, executioner, or the court of public opinion is ruthless, and there's a reason we don't um, business that way because there's plenty of times that um, all the even the regular court systems fail people, and when people act on emotion, um, and I could speak from personal experience, and I'm sure most of the people watching this, whether it's now or later, will also understand that it is they've made very very poor decisions when they're emotional, not just for other people but for themselves. And you know, again, times that I've been emotional with things, I've I've suffered. I've tried to learn my lessons, but again, no one's perfect. And we kind of come around to a day off of Twitch. For those of you who don't know, who are not plugged into the Twitch community, Twitch is experiencing some hate raids over the past couple of weeks. They have since really slowed down since the announcement that Twitch was filing a lawsuit against two of its users that were connected with it. Um, but the hashtag a day off Twitch went pretty viral, and a lot of big streamers were saying, or wouldn't say a lot of big streamers, but a lot of prominent streamers were talking about, Will taking a day off. Um, they're in solidarity with marginalized creators under attack from botting and hate raids. Which again, so we're clear that hate raids and this botting stuff is it's not good for the landscape. Um, but I have a problem with the term marginalized creator because I don't know what it's referring to. I believe that the actual statistics of Twitch are pretty in line with national demographics as far as race goes. Um, so I don't know what they mean by marginalized. Again, if we're taking my personal experience and actually a lot of experience of people that I find around me, um, there's plenty of people, you know, who most would consider privileged, but don't have the following, even a fraction of the following that some of these quote unquote marginalized creators have. So again, I'm not sure what they mean by this, other than being inflammatory and clickbaity, and preying on um, people's outrage. Uh, now, are some content creators under attack? Were they under attack? Yes, they definitely experienced some hate raids. At what frequency was it happening? I'm not entirely sure. Seemed like there was a fairly regular group of people that were experiencing them, but outside of that, it wasn't like. I mean, these attacks certainly were not random, from what I could tell. And I'm not an expert, and I didn't fully dig into everything, but again, it's important to really look at the broader picture of who is being affected by it. Again, this does not excuse the behavior for people attempting to take things out of context. Um, you know, the sorry, I'm had a quick little gimme there, if you will. Um, and the big argument with the day off Twitch was that they wanted to sort of take it to them and show them that we're not gonna be a part of your platform, and we're not gonna give you money. Um, we're gonna take a day off, and which I don't know. It seemed kind of strange that that was the take, because of course it's smart to vote with your dollar, right? If you don't want to see a change in a product, or if you want to see a company like really suffer, don't buy their stuff, don't give them money. Um, but fact remains that Twitch is the best platform for live streaming. It'll provide the best chance for exposure. There's a lot of people on Twitch, but everyone is watching on Twitch. And if you're going to come at the platform with threats, it's best to actually remove yourself from the platform to show others that you're willing to do the job. There's this really, really weird phenomenon nowadays where people think that they can just tell people what to do and not actually do that themselves, which I find a bit strange. Because if I'm going to call for a certain thing to happen within my job, I'm certainly going to be doing that thing as I am also advocating for it. No, I'm not going to say we need to take a day off of Twitch to stand in solidarity with one another, and not give Twitch the money they deserve until they change. And then the next day, turn my stream on, or 2 days later, apply for partnership. Um, get it? Like, you're not. If anything, you're giving them exactly what they want. You're giving them more money. Now the argument was um, was made that on the platform as a partnered streamer that they could possibly make a bigger difference and have even more exposure. Um, but ultimately, press is press. I don't know that Twitch is really worried about smaller creators raising a stink. Of course, they they are trying to keep the bottom line. Uh, they're trying to keep their revenue moving. Naturally, and I think that again, I think that people. Wait, okay, so you think that argument is hypocritical? What argument do you believe is hypocritical? And really the biggest, and also, I mean, really where the day off of Twitch kind of spawned from was that people felt that they did not have the tools necessary in order to stop these hate raids. Even though that many smaller creators were coming out with videos on how to deter them. Again, it wasn't necessarily. I don't believe anyone was calling people out. It was more of a, hey, there are tools that you can use in order to combat these things, which has already had them. And additionally, Streamlabs has tools that you can. And these were affecting people who had access to all the tools, whether it be sub only mode, emo only mode, slow mode. Like people have the ability to thwart these attacks as they're happening. Um, um, yeah, the idea that getting partner will change anything is just, I believe, objectively wrong. Twitch wants your money. There's no doubt about it. They want your ad revenue. They want your they want their cut of your partnership revenue in their business. They you signed up for it. You signed the contract of being a Twitch partner. You knew exactly what you were getting into, cut that you were getting. You can't really be mad at that. If you sign a contract with someone, they get mad you're not getting paid enough. Well, that's on you. You need to negotiate better. Uh, doesn't matter where you are, business world. If you have you're in a salaried position or an hourly position, someone asks you how much you're going to make, or if you know you have the skills in order to bargain for more, you need to do it. You can't expect that someone's just going to pay you more for whatever reason you think is relevant. Fight for it. Um, they wanted to make a change. They wouldn't try to go for partner while telling others to get day off. No, I agree. I agree. And I think, and there's plenty of, in today's modern landscape on the internet, there are plenty of ways to uh, monetize outside of the Twitch platform. Now, again, I don't care how people make their money. If you want to go make your money by being a Twitch partner, if you want to make your money on OnlyFans, or if you want to have a coffee account, do your thing. I don't believe in attacking someone's um, means of income. Now, I may have a I may have a opinion on said profession. I don't, there's certain things I don't consider necessarily honorable professions. But again, if someone wants to make their money selling their body or objectifying themselves, do you? I'm not doing it. Um, but the idea that go back to the Twitch thing, the idea that Twitch doesn't possess the tools in order to protect its content creators is just objectively wrong. They exist and they work very well. Um, but people aren't taking into consideration the fact that these hate raids, these bots, are designed to break their security measures. They are meant to um, break through that. But for the most part, for the people who made the small creators that made videos on how to combat them, people were like, are you victim blaming? It's like, no, no one's victim blaming. We're just trying to tell you that these tools actually do exist. They take a little time to modify, but they're there. Twitch gives you a free platform to live stream and make money. It's like Twitch. did to live streaming what YouTube did to recorded content. And since the announcement of a lawsuit came out, I haven't heard one peep about hate rates. This was intentional. It was against certain people. Again, this does not make it right, but it was very obvious that it was meant for certain people. And now that the lawsuit's been announced and they're going through with it, we haven't seen it. Again, I would probably be singing a much different tune if this was like a very broad sweeping thing that's happening randomly to people. Um, but I disagree with the notion that harm is coming to people through the form of hate raids. Now, again, if someone's being doxxed and if they're being swatted, that's totally different. That's wrong, very illegal, and it needs to be dealt with. But if someone comes in your chat and saying like naughty words, I would say that um, you need to take a step back and think about whether or not the internet is the place for you, or if a public space is the right place for you. Again, this isn't victim blaming. This is just a reality of life is that things get tough sometimes and people not always agree with you. That doesn't mean that they think you're an awful person. Just because I disagree with certain streamers' opinions on on a day off of Twitch or Twitch do better doesn't mean that they're any less human than me. Like I sat in on people's streams that people I don't agree with, but I know that they're nice humans. I know that they mean well for their community. I won't take that away from them. I think their opinions suck a lot of times, and that's totally different. What we've done in the world is we've conflated those two. We've conflated the idea of a bad opinion and someone's worth as a human being. That's not fair. I don't look at things that people say and automatically attach some label to them as what they would do and who they are. Um, again, I know that people have different experiences in life, and I know people are affected in different ways. But I can certainly be critical of the decisions you make because I would assume that anyone, if I did something moronic and bad, that someone would have words for me at some point. People have. I've been harassed on Twitch before by, you know, by former fans and quote unquote friends. Um, and it hurt at the time. It hurt my feelings. But what I realized was like, wait a minute, I've never seen this person's face before. What do I care? What do I care? It'd be different if like my best friend walked up to me and said, "You know what? You're a big piece of shit because you believe X, Y, Z. I'm fucking out of here." Oh, what do you mean? You know, that's not what's happening here. Though 9 times out of 10, I'll say 9.9 times out of 10, people are getting called names, and they run and they mass report, and they stand up in front of their whole Twitter following and say, "This guy did that. How dare he? How dare he? Flag his post." Blah. Get over yourself. What are you afraid of? What are people afraid of right now that they feel that they need to like remove someone's digital footprint? For what, man? For what? We need to be able to approach each other. uh, We need to be able to approach each other critically at times. I should be able to say to someone that I disagree. I fundamentally disagree with what you're saying. That doesn't mean, and I shouldn't even need to say that doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means that I think you're wrong in this case. And here's why. And then we also have to stop going back at people because they we have to stop going back at people because they are and being like with a name calling. Like I mean, whatever, name calling is name calling. But like when that's your only defense against something, there's a problem. You should be able to stand up for the words that you're saying. Right, LG. I mean, he said something I don't like, well, big deal, you know? People are gonna tell you this isn't anything that people don't know. Like people are gonna just get in your way your entire life. They're going to tell you you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that they're right. You know, if you can't like really the biggest and best thing that you can do in this situation is just be like, um, you're wrong. You're wrong. And now I'm going to prove it to you. You know, people I've had friends that have done this where, they were told no, do it, they're no good. But rather than at the time giving up, they stood for what they believed in, they persevered, and they did it. They did it, and they were far more successful for it. That is sticking it to someone. It's not sitting in a chat room or in a Discord server or um or whatever and making fun of a person. No, going out, acquiring the knowledge for yourself, putting it out there and showing people that you're willing to do the work and that you're willing to have the discussion. It is not easy to have these discussions. I've only recently wanted to really like have the discussion. I am willing to put myself in a compromised, vulnerable position. Are you? Are you ready to put yourself in a vulnerable, compromised position? Are you ready to accept the fact that you might be wrong? If yes, then you're already on your way. You're already on your way. And really, the last little bit of this that I want to talk about is this idea of um, this neo racism that I think people are skirting pretty heavily, and for some reason they don't really want to talk about it, or people feel that they can't talk about it. To that end, I say, screw it, now talk about it. People jump on Twitch or jump on Twitter and say, "Hey, Twitch, I say we bring back the Black Excellence section." Seriously, like I want everyone who's watching to think if I had said that, but in the opposite manner. If I had stood up and said, "Hey, Twitch, I say we bring back or we create a white excellence section." Seriously, I would love to see people's heads explode just for a moment because we know that to there's no reason to do this because Twitch already does this and it's called the front page. Front page exists to highlight excellent creators. And what they don't understand is that there's no reason to attach race to the front of it. And people will say, "Oh, well, you know what? You can't say that because you're part of a privileged group. Um, you're a cis white male. You're about as privileged as it gets. So you need to stay in your lane." No, again, it's just these intellectually lazy people who think they can just say something and it's true. The person who tweeted that has a fairly decent following, and I don't understand how someone like that gets away with it. This that tweet was done 3 weeks ago. Got 9 comments, 45 retweets, and 366 likes. It's insane. It's insane that it got that much engagement and that he didn't get ratioed. But we just need to sit back and not open our mouths because Wouldn't want to be problematic now, would we? That would just be that would be unfortunate. The internet is just a wild place, man. It's truly a place that people just go and they say whatever it is that they want. I mean, yeah, dude, go ahead, do you. I'm not a free speech absolutist, but I certainly believe that bad ideas should be shared um, along with good ideas. Because how could we know? We need to know who not to listen to. At the end of the day, we need to know who is doing the work and then who's just pretending to do the work. And I'm worried that this isn't going to slow down anytime soon. I want to think, wake up in the morning and think, this is okay. The world's going to be all right. We're going to learn from this. We're going to move on and we're going to do better for one another. And not do better in the corny ass, like Twitch do better way, but in a legitimate, like, we are going to do better. If anyone's going to take anything away from this talk today, it's the fact that we need we need to hear what other people are saying. If you're someone who wants to have a conversation with others, you need to hear what they're saying uninterrupted from start to finish, actively listen, then respond. It's a very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do, especially now. I would say most of my conservative friends are people in the politically homeless um, center are very open to new ideas. Very open to new ideas. Friends on the left are not open to new ideas. It's hard to talk to them because they tend to gang up on you. They tend to give you no way out of a situation. And that, again, wrong. It's wrong. I spoke with someone who I consider a friend, and they were having a really, really, really hard time accepting responsibility for things that they had done wrong. This is a part of it. This uncomfortable feeling where you probably know you're wrong, but you're having trouble admitting it. This is where growth comes. You might not agree with something that everything that someone says. We need to find the common ground to stand on. If we're going to build a coherent society, we need to stand with each other, not against each other. Without without that, we are done. We are nothing. We will eat each other alive. We will consume ourselves in a new civil war that will destroy us. If it comes to national divorce, then we need to know how to do that amicably. How do we separate but still maintain peaceful relations? How do we do it? I don't know the answer, but I know that it is not going to come through one broad sweeping policy. It is going to take time. It is going to be painful. It's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be many sleepless nights for the people that we elect government. It's again, I don't know the solution, but I know that we need to start thinking. Need need to. I don't again, I don't have all the answers, but I have the discussion. You want to engage you want to engage in a talk. If you want to engage or be a part of something that wants to be a solution for regular people, this is the right place. This is the place to be. I want to find a way to join hands with people to say, I know you don't agree and I know you don't agree, but let's find a way that we can hold hands. Let's let it be let this be a new beginning. Let's leave our differences behind. Let's start find the common ground. We need to be able to stand together. Need it. If we can start with the conversation, if we can start by having the open discussion and realizing that even though someone doesn't have the same train of thought, there is something that brings us together. It could just be the fact that we're Americans, that we share similar borders, that we live in the same town, we like the same game. Finding the common ground is the very, very first step to all this. If we can get there, there's hope. I've witnessed it. I've been a part of common ground very recently. I was very critical of someone and their tweets and their actions. They their community called me out. She had called me out, and then through a private conversation, we were able to establish that there was actual like common ground. We could be amicable with one another. It's too much for people. Too much. And I understand. And I don't even necessarily blame people. I don't necessarily blame people for it. We were raised in or a lot of us, a lot of the world today has been raised in a very sheltered, very filtered world. And that's not fair. There's some of us that were raised in a grittier, more, I don't know how to say it, but we need to get back to that. We need to get back to taking time. Everything is rushed. Our life, our life is streamlined to something. Life has been streamlined into making life quicker and easier. That's okay. We need to remember like how we got to where we are. We got to where we are because people sacrificed their time and their energy and their money to make life easier. But we shouldn't stop there. We shouldn't stop there. We need to keep going. Or we need to find the purpose again. We need to find out where it is that we find the most purpose. How do we continue on knowing that we're making a difference? It doesn't have to be on a big grand scale. You don't need to solve um you don't need to solve world hunger. You don't need to find out how we break the light barrier. But how do you make a difference in your local life, in your local community? That's where the difference is made, guys. Difference is made on like in your family. Jordan Peterson, has said, clean your room. Clean your room first. Then go help someone else. Clean your house. That's where you're gonna find your real change. Pay attention to your local elections, your local politics. And from there, you can make quite a difference. I hope, I hope these discussions, um, hope they evolve more and more. I tend to save a lot of tweets and bookmark them to refer to them later to do, commentary on them. I hope I hope that you guys join me in future discussions and understanding what it is that we can do in order to start changing, even again with just ourselves, with just how you speak with your family, because a lot of families have been divided over the past year and a half. A lot of families have been divided needlessly, but we need to get back to it. We need to learn how to develop the family. This is a problem that is going to be solved through culture, I believe. You know, what, you know, good, positive culture. And I've said this before very recently, many times. This is a generational problem. It's not a political problem. It's going to be solved through policy. Just not going to. Leave people to their devices. They'll do good. Majority of people do good. The majority of America is armed to the teeth. The majority of those people do not commit violent acts. People, by and large, are going to do good things for one another. I know bad things happen. I know. I'm not oblivious to them. I don't know that anyone is really. I would even go as far as to say that even the most conservative of, of people understand the horrors that are committed in the world. Pac-Man says, I've used this phrase for a long time. How can you expect to help someone if you can't even help yourself? Very true. It's very, very true. And, when I'm talking to people, when I'm talking to students, I say this very thing. I said, if you can't take care of you, or if you can't be happy with what you're doing, how could you ever expect anyone to share that space with you? Could you possibly ask someone to spend their life with you? You aren't even happy. You can't help yourself. No one can. We are responsible for our actions. We can control what we do. We understand. We're intelligent creatures. We see and engage with people on a daily basis with usually the same few people. We know how they operate. If you're not paying attention to that, you're doing it wrong, because you can't physically change someone and what they do, not legally anyway. So what's the only thing that's left to do? The only thing left to do is to modify your own behavior. But it's not as simple as that, right? Of course, if you in that find yourself in that predicament where you are changing so much about what your daily life is, perhaps you need to move to a different area, whether that means relocating in jobs, relocating family. There's a lot that can be done in the way of self improvement. People are ignoring it. They're putting the responsibility on everyone else but themselves. The problem, it's making weak individuals. It is not the responsibility of social media outlets or media outlets to control the flow of information to the point of rewriting history. Not their job. Their job is to report what happened and inform the public. Twitter, Facebook, they are not the arbiters of truth. It is not their job to fact check things. Their job is to provide a platform for people to speak and allow them to talk, allow the town square to exist. And the good thing is I haven't, being someone who creates content on a regular basis for Twitch, I have not noticed, other than DMCA violations, content getting taken down or even shadow banned. Um, so that, considering that it's an Amazon owned company, uh, it is a relief to know that that is a thing. So, but this is a brief, this is sort of a brief look at what the politically confused segment has been in the past, and what I would like it to be in the future is sort of um, a bit of a thought dump, towards the end of the week or in the middle of the week, discussing things that I see come across uh, Twitter profiles, other uh, media outlets. Again, it's important that we continue to have the conversation. Um, I hope that in the future that we involve other people in the conversation, uh, because it means the world to me to hear what other people have to say, even if we don't agree. Hope to get those people on board and talk about things that are very, very difficult. That's how we grow. We grow by making ourselves uncomfortable and growing from that. But I would like to thank everyone who catches the video, who stopped into the live stream tonight. It is very much appreciated. I would love to know in the comments what you think, how you think the national conversation is going. Do you think that your local community is accepting and understanding of different points of view? I would love to know what you guys think and how things work in your local areas. Don't have a regular schedule for Politically Confused at the moment, but rest assured, about once a week, you can expect a about an hour long live stream right here on my YouTube channel. Be sure to like the video, share it with your friends if you can, um, subscribe to the channel, the little notification bell. It'll let you know every time new content is uploaded. Every time you like it, comment, share. It boosts us in the algorithm and it helps uh, YouTube share this video with other people. It means the world to me that people showed up tonight. Thank you so much. We will catch you guys on the live stream. Great night.